Hi everyone, this is what we call an African box thorn, another introduced species to Australia. It's a pretty poor example of one. Normally this time of year these things are covered in green foliage. They're very sort of little olive shaped leaf on them. They'll come up in red berries and white flowers. They can be quite invasive as well. Birds love them. So the birds will eat berries, and birds move from tree to tree to tree, and what they leave behind is a fertilised seed for one of these little guys. So by the way, on a box thorn standard, that one is what I'd consider fairly small. It'd be better if we controlled them at a smaller stage than that, but that is a box thorn. They get extremely big, and I couldn't exactly tell you how big, but I sprayed some in the Coorong probably 4 or 5 years ago, and they probably would have been 5 metres high and possibly the same wide. They were huge. So there's a number of different ways to deal with a box thorn. Some of the things you can get to, if you've got the equipment to do it, you can cut down to the stem of these things, and you can cut right off at the base and paint it with a chemical, and that's pretty much cut and swab method. There's another one where you can basal bark them, so you can utilise a chemical, sometimes with a mix. I won't go into the mixes today, but if anyone's got any questions we can get that later. And paint the bottom part of the plant, and that will also be effective. Sometimes when a plant is so big you can't utilise those methods, foliar spray is possibly your best option. And predominantly what we utilise on box thorn is glyphosate. So that's a readily available chemical. So Roundup's one of the common names for that. But a foliar spray on a plant this size means you've got to get the whole plant. So the understandable thing I teach people about box thorn, if you spray a box thorn, you treat it like a box. You spray all 4 sides of the plant and the top. So you cover the whole plant. Anything you miss on a box thorn will not die. So it's important that you get your foliar spray set up properly. Be aware on days like today, if any of you can feel there's a slight breeze, there is a thing called spray drift. So you need to be very, very mindful of off target. So anything foliar sprayed for any plants whatsoever, any pest plants, off target is a big thing you need to keep in mind. In native areas is a big thing, so you don't want to affect things. Some of the bigger native trees don't get that affected by glyphosate, but it's a good practice not to do it. So there are a lot of plants here that this is a direct seeded area for native plants. I don't know what they are, and I don't know how susceptible to the chemical I've got. The other thing you need to consider, livestock and other people. So foliar spraying is something you always need to get the conditions right. It's preferable if you've got the training. But it can be done at home. Just be aware of the fact that spray drift is the thing you want to be most conscious of. Again, if you're going to spray with anything, I've got a trail over there which I'll demonstrate shortly. You can utilise a number of different tools. You know, the old pump packs you get at home for spraying your garden weeds. Well, this one's got a battery on it. So I love this one more because you don't have to do much work. You simply push that button, the little motor starts up, you pull the trigger, and chemical comes out. All good, all mixed. These are readily available in hardware shops if anybody wants one, and it makes life a lot easier if you've got a lot of small plants to deal with. I'd utilise that on a plant probably up to this size, preferably that size, so that makes it nice and easy. I don't have to bring all my heavy equipment in to do that, but I've got the things to do that with. Again, like any chemical, if you're using chemical, you need to use chemical resistant gloves, cotton overalls preferably, or some sort of cotton buttoned up to the wrists and the neck. Respirator of some kind is always an advantage, especially if you don't know what the chemical does, but it's just a good practice anyway. And a hat, and preferably safety glasses. So if you've got safety glasses, sometimes sunglasses will suffice. If they're good wraparound sunglasses, safety glasses are preferable. They're cheap, hardware stores have got them everywhere, and they're clear. So that's how I would do it. Now, as I said before, even with that spray, all 4 sides of that plant has to be sprayed. If I just spray the first thing that I can get at and don't get behind it, I'll come back when this plant's dying or dead on this side, the other side's still alive. So a lot of people make that mistake with box thorn where they don't thoroughly cover it. If you don't cover it, you're not going to kill it. We've had, again, enormous success with plants like this right through our tributaries and on the river. We use the thing on the river, by the way, it's a different chemical, it's a glyphosate type chemical. We call it frog friendly, and it's effectively an environmental chemical that doesn't affect the frogs and fish. So that's important for us when we work in their waterways. Any waterway will change that chem. Dry land, standard glyphosate's fine for that. So yeah, get them while they're juveniles is the best way. You can also grub out these when they're small. You can get tools where you can just pop them in under the roots and pull the roots up, and then effectively that will kill the plant or pull the plant right out of the ground. Just be aware of anything that shoots. You need to go back quite often if you've removed plants from the ground, monitor that site so that you know there's not regrowth coming back next year. And if it is, it's much easier to deal with when it's small than it is when it's big. You can regrub the extra bit, or you can put a bit of foliar spray on it, or whatever you like, cut and swab. Good method. So probably the best thing to do, good practice, is not let them get at this stage. As I say, there's an awful lot worse than that around. Sadly, I can't really show you what that is at the moment. There is a little bit of green leaf coming on this. We're just starting to pop out the end of the stems here. You probably can't see it from where you are. You come up close, you can have a look at that. That whole plant will turn green, and it's just a matter of rain. So coming up pretty soon, I'd say. These have adapted very well to Australian conditions. This is, believe it or not, although it doesn't look like it, it actually is a live plant. So if I get to this point here, and I break off a stem here, if I get lucky, I'll bring it up to closer to you. Let me know when that's right. So you see that, there's growth on that. And if you look at the stem that looks dry and woody, the end of it is actually green. So there's moisture in there. That plant doesn't look like it's alive yet, but it's actually coming. It's just one of those things that the conditions haven't been right. So they grow prolifically through the winter time. So if you look at a plant like cigar, there's no problem with that. Have a closer look because it is coming. So rabbits will harbour under them. So rabbits love box thorns. They'll get right underneath them. Gives them good protection, good cover, which then we now have a twofold problem. Instead of just having a pest plant, we've got a pest animal as well. Any advice, Landscape SA, Landcare, we'll all give you advice on how to deal with things. If we don't have an answer for something, we'll seek it out for you. That's what we do. So yeah, this plant here, as I say, it's prolific and moving around. There's so many of them and so many seeds. There are certain times of the year you can spray these things too. I'll bring that up now. Foliar spray this plant when it's too late and you're wasting your time as well. So later in the year, probably spring and early summer, when these things have leaves on them, if you tap that plant and the leaves fall off, you've probably missed your mark. They need to be growing properly. So winter time is brilliant for these things. A lot of people have made the mistake of controlling these things in the later months. When it's springtime, they look all big and green. I'll spray that, but they've probably missed it. It's already flowered, it's already buried, and the leaves have gotten to the point where they want to drop, so it doesn't take the chemical in as well. So winter time, when it's nice and cold and wet, they're growing prolifically, and they will take in the chemical better. So if you're going to foliar spray, that's the time to do it. It varies from year to year. Like now, we are almost halfway through June, I suppose, a little bit more. Normally, that would be a green plant this time of year, but we've had dry conditions. So it just waits very carefully, quietly, waiting for its right time. We were spraying these a couple of years ago in May, and they were up and about, ready to go in May. But you have to wait for the right time. There's no point in getting a few leaves on that, spraying it and going, oh, that's good, I've sprayed it. It won't kill it, it won't do the job. It has to be growing actively. And if you leave it too late, like I said, you've missed your mark as well. So it depends what you want to do. If you're very environmentally conscious and you don't want to use sprays, cut and swab, basal barking, that's another method. So again, we've got resources that can assist you in doing that. We can show you how to do that, etc. And we can give you a list of chemicals that are efficient. So there is a native plant in Australia. It's a very similar plant to a box thorn, and it is not a listed species. So this is what we call a declared species because it's imported from a different country. The Australian native, which looks like a box thorn, it's not actually a box thorn, but it's not a declared species. It's an Australian native. So it's not required to be controlled like this one. As a matter of fact, it's protected. So they do look similar. There is a colour difference in the leaves on them and a slight structure on the plant itself. It's difficult to talk about that here on the field. You'd have to sort of show somebody that, I think. Again, there is literature available, as you've spoken, there's literature available to show you the difference between the plants. The best way to identify a plant is to be face-to-face with it. We've got lots of literature and photographs and whatever. Sometimes it's difficult to identify a plant from that. But if you suspect that's what it is, you can contact a number of different people who can give you the advice on what that plant is. Amy is much better at it than I am. I have some knowledge, but we have people in our department who specialise in those kind of things anyway. If you weren't sure, I'm sure if you contacted one of us, we'll put you on to somebody who can identify it properly for you. For a small scale plant, we utilise a tool like this. For the large scale things, we have this item here. This has a 400 litre tank on it. and it has 2 hose reels which go out hundreds of metres, so effectively you can go a long way with these things. I'll demonstrate that in a minute. This is a adjustable nozzle, and this is for taking on the bigger jobs. So sometimes you've got that situation where you have got those massive box thorns. Now I'm going to demonstrate this for you today. Again, I'd reiterate, if you're using this, use proper protective equipment, so personal protective equipment, but in this case we've got water in this today. I've already flushed it and cleaned it, so it's ready to go. It, by the way, is available to landholders, so we will supply that to you, bring it to you, and you can utilise this to control things at home on a bigger, or on the property on a bigger scale. So we're happy to do that because it's more work that people are doing. It's just, collectively getting a better result. It's pretty easy to operate. It's a petrol engine powered pump, and it's electric start. As we found out yesterday, winter conditions ruin batteries, so it's got a brand new battery in it, ready to go. Pretty straightforward electric start on it. That's about all it needs. I can then walk that to wherever I want it. So a broader is sometimes a better way to go because the spray drift won't go as far. And if you're trying to get directly into something over a distance, you can do this, and it goes like that, like a garden hose. That's not the most efficient way, but sometimes to get right inside the plant, we might utilise that. Now these are electric reels as well, so you can take them out a long way. With the use of the remote, it winds itself back in. Sorry about the noise. That's the bigger scale things. We also have, in our departments, we all have spray utes as well. 600 litres or 1,000 litres with 200 metre hose reels on them for our bigger scale jobs. That'll usually be done by district officers. We don't hire those out, but we do have trailers in Karoonda, Murray Bridge, in the Riverland and here at Cambrai. So if you're a landholder that needs a little bit extra help to get some extra weed control done, box thorns in particular, that's the tool you utilise for it. So no charge. We'll just make sure you have to sign a hire agreement for obvious reasons. We'll demonstrate properly how to use it, and then ultimately all we would ask is it comes back without chemical in it and it's clean.